So today we're declaring public safety emergency in the District of Columbia.
Have these 30 days been worth it?
Oh, absolutely not. The stress and the trauma, the economic costs haven't been worth it at all.
We're standing right in the middle of D.C., which, as you know, about over the last year was a very unsafe place. Over the last 20 years, actually, it was very unsafe. And now it's got virtually no crime.
We've been through something we've never been through before in Washington, D.C., or really any city in America.
I'm an immigrant also, and it's my community. And it's impactful, and I understand that fear at a personal level.
Well, look, it's something the mayor clearly does not want to talk about.
Watch homicides and crimes go up.
Why? Because there's no fear of the D.C. police?
There's no fear of the D.C. police.
Now that the first 30 days of the emergency President Trump declared on D.C. crime is over, we're left to answer so many questions. Among them is how this became the picture of D.C. so much of the world saw armed members of the National Guard patrolling D.C. streets we're so familiar with. We know it wasn't the reality for a lot of you, and for some of you, neither was the idea that crime here was somehow out of control before the surge or takeover was announced. Crime is down in D.C. over the last 30 days. There's no question about that. But D.C. police statistics also show that crime dropped every month this year in the district. For more context, we wanted to take a broader view, figure out what's happened over the last 30 days, what comes next, and how much rebuilding D.C. police need to do in the communities they police. This is For More Context, your seat in the News 4 newsroom, for a conversation about how we check facts, fight for answers, break stories, and hold each other accountable. But look, here's 6 National Guard on one corner.
Exactly.
And what you say is potentially drug dealers on the other.
Right.
Is that an effective use of this federal surge? Look, federal taxpayers are paying 6 people to sit on that corner while you say drug dealers are on this one.
Let's look at the other side of the glass.
Yeah?
I bet they won't shoot anybody out here because of the federal, the National Guard over there. I bet they won't shoot anybody.
Do you prefer those guys be trained to engage with people on the streets of D.C.?
I would.
Soldiers.
Yes,
National Guard soldiers.
I would.
Do law enforcement in D.C.
I would. Yes, I would.
Why?
Because it would basically it would make it more safe for public safety purposes.
Yeah.
It would make it more safe.
We know so many of you can't wait for these federal agents to leave, for the National Guard to pull out, but not everyone is happy about it. Leroy Thorpe founded the Red Hats, citizens organized patrol efforts decades ago to patrol D.C. streets he thought were unsafe. And he brought us here to explain why he's nervous about all those federal troops leaving. A lot of people are upset about having the extra law enforcement here, about having the National Guard here, about militarizing D.C.
That's politics. You know, this is a Democratic city. You have a Republican president. So that's politics. People like myself are elated that the feds came in, the different federal law enforcement and the National Guard. I'm not God, but my gut feeling tells me once the federal law enforcement personnel leave along with the National Guard, watch homicides and crime go up.
Why? Because there's no fear of the D.C. police?
There's no fear of the D.C. police.
You want Trump to go even further?
Absolutely.
You want him to take over the district?
An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But do I want to take over the district? I wouldn't mind the control board coming back here.
Have these 30 days been worth it?
Oh, absolutely not. The stress and the trauma, the economic costs haven't been worth it at all.
And do you think the last 30 days have brought crime down here in one of the areas in D.C. that does need a drop in crime?
No. I think it may have paused, moved some stuff inside.
Jamila White is an ANC chair and a community leader in Anacostia, an area of D.C. where the effects of crime and policing have hit hard. Are you glad these 30 days are over?
Yes, I am glad.
Why?
It's been stressful. It's been anxious.
What has?
Because I live in a community that has so many of the youth, Black youth in particular, and from the very onset of this attack, it's been Black youth. It's been remarks, you're criminals, you were born to be criminals because you were born in Black and you were born in situations that have been put you in a situation of marginalization.
If you think back to early August before this was announced, when they were just talking about it, how is today different than what you expected this to be?
I expected hundreds of troops to swarm Ward 8, just to tell you the truth, because the way in which the president was talking about Black people in this community, and I knew exactly, we all knew who he was talking about.
And you're telling me that just didn't happen?
Not with the National Guard. I was expecting a National Guard swarm coming into our community from the way he was
And you
talking.
Never saw soldiers?
No, not east of the river. Not east of the river in Anacostia.
And you're out in this community a lot?
Pretty much every day I'm out, yeah.
How many days a week did you see a squad of federal agents?
I would say at least every other day, and a lot of it was congregated, like I said, at the metro. That's where the most of
But not out in the community, doing policing, getting to know the troublemakers.
Oh, absolutely, no, none of that, no.
So what happens after the 30 days? What happens next week?
I think that's a question that we all know. Nothing is going to change for the long term.
Help me make sense of what we've just been through.
Well, I mean, we've been through something we've never been through before in Washington, D.C., or really any city in America, to see the President of the United States take over a local police department, put armed troops on the street, and federal agents conducting checkpoints and taking thousands of people into custody off of the street. And now you have Republican members of Congress making the same types of threats and assaults on home rule. So home rule has never been more fragile in its short existence than it is today. And the way the crime emergency played out for 30 days is just one symptom of that. Bowser said she shares residents' concerns about the surge and President Trump's threats to take over the city completely.
People who are, like me, outraged over the intrusion on our federal autonomy.
You described this period as probably one of the largest threats to home rule since D.C. got home rule. Did you get the sense that they felt that in the mayor's office?
Oh, absolutely. Do you see the president and his administration as partners or as adversaries?
I see the president as the president and me as the mayor of the capital city that works with every president.
So does she feel like she comes out of this 30-day emergency as a winner?
In her words, the district won. In that sense, that was her goal, was to get out from under the thumb of that crime emergency, the optics of that, having to, report to Pam Bondi and the president on a regular basis, and she considers that a win without a doubt.
But what did she have to give up to let this evaporate, let this first 30 days evaporate?
Well, one thing we know she had to give was this mayoral order, where she created a framework and for cooperation and coordination between D.C. government officials and law enforcement officials and federal law enforcement officials that would go on beyond the crime emergency today, tomorrow, into the future.
So then I got to be honest. Maybe it feels like she won the battle, but not the war.
The war's not over. Right.
Catalina, you're a reporter on our T44 side, our Spanish language side here, and I'm curious, what are your viewers telling you about how hard these 30 days have been?
I would say that it's been hard for a lot in the Hispanic community, people that have status to stay here in the United States, people that are going through a status process, going through an application process. It's been hard overall. We've heard of people just staying home for those 30 days, choosing to stay home, or indefinitely, not knowing until when they'll be staying home.
What are they scared of?
Facing immigration authorities.
Does it tug at you in a way that stories haven't in the past?
Of course.
How so?
Because I'm an immigrant also, and it's my community, and it's impactful, and I understand that fear at a personal level, and I understand that it's trickling down through many in the Hispanic community, not just a certain group of people. Everybody has a friend of a friend, everybody knows somebody. A lot of people are going through this.
You felt fear?
I I think standing next to situations where these things have happened right there, yes.
I don't blame you. I mean, I think, right? I think it has to. And so I think you must be able to associate with the fear that people are feeling, whether they have status or not.
Of course. I think now there's even a fear, and what we've heard from people is that now there's a fear of even just the encounter, of being questioned, of even if you have a status here, of what that interaction is going to be like. And I think that the fear that people are seeing when others are being detained is just also spreading within everybody and causing that.
The enforcement has really stepped up. How many, when you have these conversations with people, whether they have status or not, how many of them are concerned about interacting with DC police? I understand they're concerned about interacting with ICE, but how many have that concern about interacting now with DC police?
The thought of a possible interaction with immigration authorities terrifies her, even though she has a work permit and has been granted asylum in the country.
Well, I'm glad you pointed that out, because DC police, they've been saying that the community relationship they have is really important, and that it helps in investigations, that it helps to have that relationship with them. But we also hear from people, when you ask them, will you contact police today? They say no.
Why not?
They're scared.
Because DC police, at least for the 30 days of the emergency, have been working with ICE. Has that message sunk into the immigrant community, that DC police is cooperating from time to time with ICE now?
Well, they see them outside, so they know that, and they are scared. They are scared of even risking it.
So what do you think that means if they were a victim of crime? If they'd been robbed, if they'd been assaulted, if something had been stolen from their car, do you think a lot of the people you speak with would even reach out to call 911?
Well, I've asked them that, and they say they wouldn't.
That makes them very vulnerable, doesn't it? I mean, look, just as someone who lives here, that's I can't imagine that's what we want for our community, is for crime victims to silently suffer. Mm-hmm. Is it?
No, and I think some people feel like they can't do anything.
Let's talk about ICE, because I think of all the things that will linger after this 30-day period, DC Police's cooperation with ICE is going to be one that we'll talk about for a while.
Well, look, it's something the mayor clearly does not want to talk about. If you've watched my reporting over the last week, that her patience with my questions has ended.
What I said is it goes with the emergency, and the emergency is over.
Right, what does that mean?
What I said.
So is it still in effect? Is that executive order still in effect? Will police continue to cooperate with people who are non-constitutional?
I've answered that question.
Then why are we all confused? Because I don't think...
I'm not sure why you're confused.
She has, to my way of thinking, she has not fully answered the question of what you just posed. What will MPD's coordination and cooperation with ICE be now that the emergency has ended? And it's because the chief of police issued an executive order with 2 points. Cooperate with ICE if people are not in detention, and they even said there during traffic stops, so those are your checkpoints, right? And help ICE with transportation of detainees. That is an executive order. Nowhere in that executive order does it have an end date or a sunset clause, and nowhere does it mention, much less tie itself to the crime emergency, as Mayor Bowser has tried to do.
If you're confused, what does that mean to an officer on the streets of DC?
I think they're less confused, actually, because I think they know this is our order. This is what we're going to do. We're just a few days into the end of the emergency, so we'll have to see if we do see evidence of MPD continuing to coordinate with ICE.
Do you have any expectation that the trust returns? Does she have any expectation that without a lot of hard work, that trust returns?
I think she hopes that trust returns.
I've seen the activists, the faith-based sector all come out. That's what I've been seeing. That's what I've been feeling safe.
You're still not talking about Mayor Bowser.
I mean, I haven't seen the mayor, you know, and not that like it's someone I see all the time. But besides kind of press releases or town halls, I haven't seen anything intimate.
But in the middle of a 30-day police takeover, in an area that many have said is one of the most serious crime problems in DC, would you have expected to see the mayor?
No.
Would you have hoped to see the mayor?
Would I have hoped? Yes. Expectation? No.
She has been very willing to cooperate with federal agencies, even now that the surge or takeover has finished. What has that done to the trust, if there was any, between people who live here and MPD?
You know, I think that trust was already very shaky, depending on who you are. So one thing I want to say, we're not a monolithic community.
Of course.
Different people feel different ways.
But
different
you hear from a lot of
segments
people.
The population. So I hear from a lot of people. And I think whatever kind of trust there was, it's definitely been even more fractured. And some of that's because, you know, seeing MPD kind of stand aside or being there when you see people's rights being violated, when you see them being manhandled very strong and aggressively, it makes you take a second look, even if you hadn't looked at law enforcement in that way. And so absolutely, there are gains that may have been made that I think are definitely being pushed back. And there's also a general distrust now.
You can have your cake and eat it too. But here's the point.
Well, hold on, Leroy. What you just said is you can't have safety and civil rights at the same time. And I think that's different.
Well, what I said, you can't have your cake and eat it at the same time. You got the police right over there sitting in the car, but you got the National Guard right here as a deterrent. But I would go over there and engage with them.
Right. But that's not a one-time thing.
What
you
you
can't
mean?
do that you can't do it for 10 days or 20 days or in this case 30 days. You've got it. The reason your program is successful, I think what I hear you saying
repetition.
Is that you're there every day for
It's
months.
repetition.
How has your community changed because of what's happened the last 30 days?
One of the things that actually has surprised me, interestingly enough, is that folks have really rallied around no federalization. Even folks who have said, we want more police, we need more police, they are against this.
What surprised you in all of this?
Hope. Yeah, people are holding on to hope.
Hope for what?
Hope that it might get better for them, that they might be able to go back to work, that they might no longer fear while they're outside working throughout the day. Just hope that it might get better for them.
There's a lot at stake for Washington, D.C., and you know, the stress level of D.C. residents who are paying attention has got to be higher than it's ever been before here in D.C.
As we reported on crime in the last 30 days in D.C., we were reminded there are plenty of cities across America that have worse crime rates than D.C. does, and some of them in states that sent their National Guard members to patrol D.C. streets. As we record this, the U.S. House is considering more than a dozen bills that could strip away D.C.'s limited home rule. Soon Congress will have the chance to pass judgment on D.C.'s budget, and they've already called every D.C. police district commander up to the Hill to testify on just what's going on D.C.'s crime statistics. The point is, while this so-called emergency on crime has passed, this period of increased oversight for D.C., it doesn't appear that's over. If you like this kind of context, we'd love for you to check out more of it on the NBC Washington YouTube page. Like it, subscribe to it, tell us what you want to see in the comments section. I'm Ted Oberg from the News 4i team. You can find me anywhere on social at TedNBC4. In the meantime, I'll be here, working for you.